Welcome to another episode of the YXE Sports Podcast for June the 7th. It is Monday. Of course, we're live at Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar as we are every single Monday night. Big thanks to everybody watching on Facebook on the Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar Facebook page, the YXE Sports Podcast Facebook page, No YXE. We're on the No YXE YouTube channel as well. And a big thanks to everybody listening to the audio version of this. First and foremost, Ray Morrison, I got to say that this week's episode is going to be organized chaos.
Why?
Because took possession of a house on Friday, and from Saturday morning till about now, that's what I've been doing. So I really have no idea what's going on in the sporting world. So hopefully you can carry the show for a change.
You're finding adulting is hard?
Yeah.
You're finding that to be a pretty tough thing? The great thing about it is June, and we are now dressing quite casually.
Yeah.
See, that's it. So we're rocking the shorts. That's all we'll expose you to. But
I got paint in my hair. I got paint on my arms. Been terrible. So like I said, I was quite busy over the course of the weekend, but one of the things I did happen to see was the Edmonton Elks. That's right, the Edmonton football team, as they were called for a little while after the name change from the Eskimos. They've decided on the Edmonton Elks. They have come out with some new logos that we have for you to see in case you haven't seen them yet, for everybody watching the live stream. But Ray, just your
casual Monday.
Yeah. Just your thoughts on the Edmonton Elks, on the name and the logo.
Well, I don't mind the logo, and it goes with the name, so I don't necessarily mind that as we take a look at it there. I was hoping so I don't mind the logo. That's a good logo. The elk can be a very intimidating animal, a very powerful animal. So I see that. The one name I was kind of hoping for was the Empire. And the reason I say that is because I really thought that if you went with the name Empire, with regards to the success of the Edmonton Eskimos over their time in the Canadian Football League, their winning record has been incredible, right? So I'm all for the name change. There are people my age, maybe a little bit younger, maybe older, that are still going to, in air, refer to the old name, as I think I just did. Same thing with Washington's football team. That's going to happen from time to time. But I have no problem with the name change, and I don't mind that logo. To be totally honest with you, I don't have a problem with it at all. But I would have loved to have seen the team go with Empire in the context of what a powerful and stable franchise that has been in the CFL.
The logo is definitely going to take some getting used to for me. Not really what I envisioned personally, but I don't really know what I did envision.
Yeah, no, I don't know that at all.
Right, but I don't know. It just the
second logo you have there, Ian, our producer. I don't know if I understand that.
I think that's supposed to be a football. I think those are supposed to be elk horns, and it's supposed to be in the shape of a football.
It's supposed to be an elk horn?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm just guessing.
I don't know.
Guess is as good as mine there.
I don't know. I'm not sure what, but I get the football. I don't get the other part of it. I guess it's the antlers.
Yeah.
It's the antlers backwards.
Yeah.
Let's just see that one more time, Ian, as I explain that again. Now that I look at that you can tell how well we prepared for the show.
Yeah.
Those do look like elk horns now that I look at it. So that's what you got there in the shape of a football. So for third jersey day and that sort of thing, I can see that being, now that I look at it closer, something. And I'm glad they maintained the colors too.
Right.
So the green and gold. That was
fantastic.
kind of the neat thing in my mind. So, it'll be interesting to see how much of the Triple E is left kicking around after this. Because I thought the reason they were going with all these E names like the Eclipse and the Everest and they're entertaining this was so they wouldn't have to change logos.
Right.
But a lot of branding is being done around the new logo. But again, I don't have a problem with it at all.
Well, and that's the thing. I think producer Ian and I were looking before the show. I think they are keeping that EE logo as something, and that
pull that out every now and then. You've got a on a retro night or something
for a third jersey or something like that, or a retro night. You're exactly right. So
good.
Don says every game will be like a convention. So
Elks convention.
An Elks convention.
There you go. Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, hopefully they have success with it, except when they play the green guys, our green guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which hopefully the CFL season is projected to start on August 5th.
Yeah, that's what they're saying now.
Right,
Yep.
that's what they're saying now.
Yep.
So
And
sneak in a little bit of a season, which will help. Depending on what province you're in, there might be some fans that will be able to attend those games, which is obviously good for revenues and stuff like that. Obviously, you got to try to keep everybody safe, but you got to try to gain some revenues if you're the Canadian Football League. Much has been made about the dire situation that the league is in, especially if they don't play this year. But that's kind of what's new on the CFL front. So it's kind of odd to talk about positivity when you talk about the CFL because it's been so negative for so long. But
it's been tough. It's been a tough go. So Edmonton unveiling their name, it's good. It's been really good to see that.
Well, and also they came up with a new name for the Washington football team in the NFL.
Oh,
right. So Washington got rid of their team name before Edmonton, and then Edmonton was able to come up with a name in a shorter amount of time.
Before the Washington football team.
But that owner in Washington is just terrible, in my opinion. Your Montreal Canadiens are coming out of nowhere. 6 straight wins.
They have terrible.
3-0 stranglehold on the series against the Winnipeg Jets. Put your hand up or write a comment if you saw that coming. And if you did, then I'm going to say that you're probably a liar. But again, I haven't had the opportunity to watch much of this series. But a 3-0 series lead for the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah. Me and Doyle were talking about it before the show. I mean, in the playoffs, it's so much. If you get hot at the right time, then you can become unbeatable. And that's clearly what we're seeing with the Montreal Canadiens having reeled off 6 wins in a row.
Well, I honestly think that they have been negatively affected by this Mark Scheifele hit, and I think that's still carrying over, to be totally honest with you. So, that hit on Evans, that was a dirty shot in Game 1, and I like Mark Scheifele. I like the way he plays. He's a big body guy when he needs to be. He can lower the boom. He's a talented guy, and I always like the way he carries himself in interviews. So I'm a real Scheifele fan, but that act in Game 1, I think it has really sent the Winnipeg Jets into an absolute tailspin. I think it's been a little bit of a problem for them to bounce back from because deep down they know they're playing a Montreal team now that is really motivated. And this is an age-old thing in hockey, you don't want to give teams an opportunity to put up billboard material or give them something to feed on, right? Well, what happens in Game 1? Not only does Montreal win that game, but Scheifele gets so upset that he gives Evans a shot that leads to Evans being hurt and out of the series to date now. Scheifele's one of their best players. He's a talented guy. And so now you're looking at it from Winnipeg's perspective as to, we broke the code, so now we've got to be careful what we do. And as a result, I think they've been a little bit timid around the puck. Montreal's a small team. Don't forget that in games 1 and 2, their goal scorers were Suzuki and Kotkaniemi, right? Those were your goal scorers, right? I think I mentioned it. One guy's 175 pounds, the other's 5'9".
Yeah.
And that's, those are your goal scorers in 2 back-to-back game-winning goal situations. Now the bigger players are starting to step up a little bit on the back end. And that's what's interesting to me is a guy like Corey Perry. He's having a great playoff. And Corey Perry's 32 years old, I believe.
Oh, I think he's older than that.
Oh, he might be. Yeah, because he was around when Anaheim
won in 07.
Yep. So he would be older than that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're parking him in front of the net. And Winnipeg is having a tough time clearing him out. The other player that's done a good job in front of the net, even though he's not all that big, is Gallagher. He's done a good job. And as a result, you got Weber on the back end. You've got Edmonton. You got some players on the back end for Montreal, that are doing a great job in letting Carey Price see the puck. Winnipeg's not doing that. You can't have a guy of Corey Perry's experience set up camp like he has set up camp in front of that net, in front of Connor Hellebuck, and let that happen. It's beyond description. So I really think the Game 1 incident has just thrown Winnipeg off their game so badly that it's tough. Because if you take a look at Paul Maurice, he's one of the smartest and best coaches in the NHL, but for whatever reason, this Winnipeg team, they're losing a lot of puck battles now to a Montreal team that, quite honestly, isn't all that big up front. They've got some imposing players in the back end, like we talked about with Weber, but up front, I mean, they're not that big. But they're winning their share of battles in Winnipeg zone. And it's been so unusual to see what we've seen. And course, Game 4 is just kind of getting going here now.
Yeah.
No score. We just dropped the puck 25 seconds ago here as we go live on this June 7th. But it's been a mystery. It's been a total mystery.
Well, and that's the thing about the playoffs too, right? Everybody always says everything's magnified in the playoffs. Every mistake, every turnover, every save, every goal, and that goes down to suspensions as well, right? I've seen it being compared. So Mark Scheifele got a 4-game suspension. Well, I'm seeing that being compared to that's roughly the equivalent of 10 regular season games, just because of how much these playoff games mean, right? So you take a 4-game suspension in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does hurt your team, right?
Well, for sure. Well,
especially in game 1 of the series,
well, especially
like you
if
said.
you're Mark Scheifele.
Yep.
Especially if you're that skilled.
Yep.
Right. And that's point blank the issue for Winnipeg. They're looking around, and not only are they being outplayed, but they're seeing a big hole in their lineup.
Yep.
They're just not kind of able to rally here.
And Scheifele was so good in that series against Edmonton too, right?
Phenomenal.
So he's definitely one of the guys that the Winnipeg Jets are missing, and they're in some trouble. Only 4 teams have come back down 3-0 in a series.
Here's my favorite stat right here. Ready?
Sure. Lay it on me.
The Habs' current 6-game winning streak is the longest such run for the club in the playoffs since 1993, the last time they won the Stanley Cup. So that's interesting. And Montreal hasn't been to the Final Four since 2014. We knew a Canadian team was going to make the Final Four just because of the Canadian division this time. Yeah.
But everybody thought that it was either going to be Toronto, Edmonton, or Winnipeg. Nobody thought it was going to be Montreal.
Nobody would have thought that Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid would not be around for round 2. And that's the boat we find ourselves in right now, which is just, when you think back to it, it's just absolutely bizarre. Jets, by the way, have given up 3 shorthanded goals and have not scored once in the power play.
Wow.
So
special teams, right? There's your
well, there it is. You got to stay disciplined. You've got to, that's the thing. If you're going to play timid, then you're going to start reaching with your stick, playing with your stick, not trying to win battles with your body, and you're going to be taking penalties. Right? And that's a problem. But when you are on the power play, you can't give up 3 goals in a series.
Right.
There's just no way.
That game, of course, is on at the big screens here at Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar. So is every other NHL hockey game. And the people at Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar love you all so very much that they have $5 drink specials during the NHL playoffs, which, as it's in round 2, is pretty much almost every single night of the week or the NHL playoffs. And they're all live right here at Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar. So make sure you come on down on the corner of Circle and Idlewild. Doyle and the rest of the team would be super happy to see you. You don't even have to come when there's an NHL game on, but this is the best place in Saskatoon to watch a game. If you're looking for something great to do near Saskatoon, you want to get out of the city and bask in Saskatchewan nature, you can take the family or a friend out to the Petrovka Orchard. They have a great cafe that serves homemade food, a beautiful store full of gourmet apple and other local products, and a large variety of ice cream treats. After you fill your belly, take a walk to the riverfront beach and enjoy the most beautiful walking trails around the apple orchard, only 40 minutes north of Saskatoon, right on Highway 12 at the base of the Petrovka Bridge. They're open daily from 10 to 6. The cafe is closed on Wednesdays. You can check out the website for more information at petrovkaorchard.com. So that series, well, if you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, that series is going great. But there are some other series in the second round of the NHL playoffs that have been fantastic. The New York Islanders and the Boston Bruins are playing in Game 5 tonight as well. That series is tied up at 2. And Vegas has all of a sudden, when it looked like they might be down and out, have reeled off 2 straight victories at home down in Vegas. So now all of a sudden that series is tied at 2 as well.
And now you're starting to see that playoff experience, that Stanley Cup final experience that Vegas had from a couple of years ago step up, because the Vegas Golden Knights have outscored Colorado 8-3 in the last 2 games. Jonathan Marchessault was terrific in Game 4. He had a hat trick in that game. So you can tell now that they are starting to pick things up now, and that's going to be an interesting series because Colorado, they're good too. I mean, we saw the regular season. A lot of people picked Colorado to get to the Stanley Cup final throughout the regular season. So it's probably fitting that that's now a best-of-3 series. I don't think anybody saw the shaky start that Vegas got off to in this series, though. But now they seem to be on track, and that's what home ice will do for you. And of course, in Vegas and in the United States, and a lot of the arenas now, it's full crowd, right? So and
that does make a difference.
That big is faithful. That Golden Knights faithful. That's a motivating factor for that team.
That New York-Boston series is quickly becoming a pretty good one too, at least for me. All those games have been quite close. There's been a couple of overtime games in that series, and the New York Islanders are playing at the Nassau Coliseum for their final year before they move to that big brand new stadium next season. But that Coliseum is rocking. Now the fans are back in that building as well. So,
well, it was a 4-1 win Saturday, and what was interesting about that was Varlamov was terrific in goal. He was absolutely fantastic. So they get that sort of goaltending. Had they fallen down 3-1, it would have been over. I'll say the same thing about Carolina. They're down 3-1 to Tampa, and I don't think there's any getting off the mat for Carolina, even though I really like their coaching staff. Right?
Me too.
But it's tough. But in this series now that it's tied at 2, this
anybody's.
Yep, and Matthew Barzal has stepped up. See, the 4-1 game was kind of a statement game for the New York Islanders, right? Because as Matt mentioned, every game was close, but Saturday it was a 4-1 Islander win. So Barzal steps up. Varlamov gives you terrific playoff type goaltending, and we're seeing it from Montreal from Carey Price. If he can see it, he can stop it. Varlamov was kind of like that in Game 4 for the Islanders. So, Matt, with that, I think that was a crucial win for New York, and they got it. But what makes it interesting is how convincing it was, because they know they have the stars and they are capable of dominating.
Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar says the Canes have those good ND boys. Of course, that's Notre Dame down in Wilcox. Rod Brendamore is an alum of Notre Dame.
Yep, so, a Hound. Yep, you bet.
So that's good for them. A little bit of a not groundbreaking story, I guess you could call it that, trailblazing story out of the Ontario Hockey League over the weekend. They held what is considered their Bantam draft, and Taya Currie, a 16-year-old goaltender, became the first female to be chosen in the Ontario Hockey League draft. The Sarnia Sting selected her in the 14th round, number 267 overall, but we're seeing it with Emery Dale in Saskatoon with the Hilltops, and now we're seeing it out in the Ontario Hockey League, junior hockey, that a female has been selected. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes and where that goes. I think she might have another year until she can actually play, if it's similar to the WHL rules where you get drafted and then you have to wait a year.
Well, Dylan
Secca, she is 16. So.
Yeah, Dylan Secca is their general manager, and he said, no, this is not a fluke. She has been playing with male competitors for like the last 7 years. And I kind of like what she said, too. Curry said, I want to be treated as everybody else. Like, I'm not just well, we can talk about this for a little while, but when it's time, it's time. And so she really plans to step up. So that's it is barrier breaking, but good enough to hold her own to a point where, maybe we're not talking about barrier breaking. We're just talking about how good she is soon.
Moving back locally, the University of Saskatchewan Husky football team is bringing back some former alumni to help coach out. So hopefully they can get on the field. I mean, there is the schedule.
Brett Thompson has been a head coach for the last 10 years in the high school circuit with Aidan Bowman and Evan Hardy. And so he is going to actually, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he's helping out on the defensive side of the ball. So, he'll kind of know what offense is planned and scheme and help that secondary kind of get onto that. And Lyle Evaniski is another former Husky, and he's been added to the coaching staff as well as the running backs and tight end coach for the Huskies. So there's some local news. That might have been over a week ago or around a week ago.
Last week.
We might have missed that last week. So, but Scott Flory, that's been good enough to come in and join us on occasion. There's some Huskies football news there.
And then you have here, because you had to do all my prep for me today, because I was busy. 68-year-old coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bruce Arians, has a revised contract with a pay raise as head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What's interesting about that, all 22 starters for the Buccaneers from that Super Bowl winning team are back this year. And with Tom Brady at the helm, and their coach, and with Tom Brady at the helm, you just have no idea what way that's going to go. I think Bruce Arians is a pretty good coach, but when Tom Brady's your quarterback, it's not hard to say, but it'll be interesting to know how many buttons Bruce Arians is actually pushing, not to discredit him or anything like that. But
Yeah, well, but
everywhere Tom
Wally,
goes,
you
he
know
wins.
what? Wally Buono in the CFL was, the BC Lions had some great years, and Wally was a guy that would delegate.
Yeah, he didn't even wear a headset for some of those years.
And maybe that's Bruce's,
Yeah.
theory with his assistant coaches. Just kind of delegate and make sure everybody's doing their job. And if you see something flying through the air you don't like, you shut it down. But other than that, just
because that's what you said. You know Wally quite well, right?
Yeah.
Through your time at TSN. And what was the always big thing? I don't need to wear a headset.
Yeah.
If I see somebody doing something wrong, I'll go talk to them. But
yeah, exactly.
Until then,
yep. Communicate to the coordinators, and other than that, you know, let things play out as they do.
So that's an awesome story from Wally Buono, and
Yep.
it'll be interesting to see how long Bruce Arians wants to go too, because I think in the past
Winning is so much fun.
yeah,
He's 68 years
Yeah.
old, but winning is so much fun.
makes a guy feel young again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
For sure.
appreciate you joining us
Next week.
next week. Yeah, let's zoom in on that for everybody watching the live stream on Facebook and YouTube. But a very special guest. And that was him earlier today nodding yes to being on the YXE Sports Podcast. So
Wendell Clark will join us next week.
the man, the myth, the legend himself, Wendell Clark, is planning to join us on the YXE
Scotty
Sports
Bowman
Podcast.
once described Wendell Clark as the most dangerous 6 seconds in hockey. It can either be with a big hit, that wrist shot, because he's got wrists like tree trunks, or a fight. He can single-handedly turn a game quicker than any other player in the National Hockey League, and not a bad business guy either.
Yeah,
Right?
He's got one out in
doing okay.
Saskatoon. He's got a few out in Ontario where he resides now. But the thing about Wendell is that he was born and raised in Saskatchewan, and he always loves coming back here.
Yep.
So you got to appreciate that. So we'll talk to Wendell Clark himself next week on the YXE Sports Podcast. Can't wait for that. I have a bunch more home renos to do, Ray, so I got to get back to that.
All right.
But we will all talk to you and see you next Monday.